In the war in Ukraine, both sides have deployed armies of lethal drones against each other. Some sophisticated, others, like this one, adapted by hand to drop grenades on enemy positions. There's usually a human that decides where and when a drone strikes. But some are capable of operating in fully autonomous mode, meaning the drone can be programmed to make the call between life and death on its own. But what if the tech fails? And what if it falls into the wrong hands?
The war we're seeing right now is only going to kind of accelerate this move toward lethal autonomous weapons on the battlefield.
But are we ready for killer robots? And what would be the true cost of taking human hands off the trigger?
3, 2, 1.
These are what's known as loitering munitions. They can fly around waiting for a target to be identified before crashing to the ground to destroy it.
So it's really a combination of an artillery and a drone that has got the capabilities of both.
John Aldana manages the loitering munitions program at AeroVironment on the west coast of the US. The company has been producing missiles like this, the Switchblade 300, and this, the largest 600, for over 2 decades.
They actually fold up like so and are inside a launch tube that's just a little bit larger than this. It launches the Switchblade out. The wings open up like that, which is why we call it a Switchblade. The propellers here, because of the air, will start to spin, and the battery, which is inside, kicks in, and it's off.
The 300 can loiter for around 15 minutes and is designed to take out small targets like enemy soldiers and trucks, while the largest 600 can wait around for up to 40 minutes and attack armoured vehicles. Operators can control the Switchblades from as far as 40 kilometers away.
You have the ability to wave off, so you can cancel the mission all the way to the very end, go back to loitering, find another target of interest, and engage a different target of interest that you may not have even known about.
Look at that. The United States sent 700 of these to Ukraine in early 2022. Ukrainian forces have already shared videos of what they claim to be Switchblade attacks on the ground. Each Switchblade 300 reportedly costs about $6,000 and can only be used once. That's more than an off-the-shelf drone rigged to carry a grenade, but far less than the cost of an unmanned aircraft like the MQ-9 Reaper, which can fly back to base once it has fired on a target. And the Switchblades are being designed to think more and more for themselves.
Autonomous or semi-autonomous drones are going to be used to conduct these kinds of conflicts.
That means tracking and recognizing a target, even one that's on the move.
We'll continue to invest heavily on autonomy and AI and machine vision algorithms and software that essentially makes these things more and more, I don't want to call it 100% autonomous, but more and more autonomous and self-thinking, call it that way.
Wahid Nawabi always sees a human being kept in the loop when making judgment calls, but in his view sometimes it's the human that's the problem.
More and more of the analytics and the burden on the soldier is going to be taken or replaced by these algorithms that make it more reliable, more accurate, and safer for the operator as well.
Human error during drone strikes has caused a high number of civilian casualties in recent years. As Kabul fell to the Taliban in 2021, a US MQ-9 Reaper drone fired a missile that killed 10 civilians, including 7 children. The drone team mistook an aid worker's white Toyota for that of a potential terrorist. According to the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, the US has killed at least 300 civilians in drone strikes and covert operations in Afghanistan between 2015 and 2020. But AI systems designed to make the tough choices easier are also getting it wrong, as we'll see later. Ukraine is one of the first major conflicts where drones have played such a high-profile role, but experiments with unmanned flying missiles began over 100 years ago. This is the Kettering bug, an unmanned aerial torpedo designed by the US Army during World War I. Its wings were designed to fall off before the bomb dropped to its intended target. But it wasn't until the US invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan that we saw high-tech drones like the MQ-9 Reaper and even some loitering munitions starting to make a difference on the battlefield. In 2020, the world saw the first large-scale use of drones in the Nagorno-Karabakh war between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Azerbaijan deployed Israeli-made loitering drones similar to the Switchblade.
But one of the things we're seeing in Ukraine is that drones are being used pretty effectively on both sides.
When Russia invaded Ukraine, many experts predicted an easy victory for Putin's forces. But Russia miscalculated the level of Ukrainian resistance.
Drones have given Ukrainian forces the ability to field cheap and persistent air power that brings pretty significant threats to Russian ground forces.
And for a while, their ill-prepared troops were caught in a 40-mile-long convoy to the north of Kyiv. They were sitting ducks for guns and Turkish-made TB2 drones. The Ukrainian government launched an appeal to fund an army of drones.
We call on the service of Ukraine all the simplest drones, which you use to shoot nature.
And teams of civilian engineers have adapted large numbers of off-the-shelf drones for the battlefield. Some, like this one, can grip and release small grenades. Social media has since transformed the drone into a symbol of heroic Ukrainian resistance. Aerial footage of strikes on Russian targets is often accompanied by rock music. The impression is of a nimble David slaying the Russian Goliath. But the reality is more nuanced. Unmanned aircraft, drones and loitering munitions certainly helped. But Russia quickly stepped up its defenses and used drones of its own.
They weren't ready for it, but they are now. The Russians, I think, have really compensated and now developed their air defenses, shot down these TB2s, and really kind of rendered and almost neutralized that technology.
To stay one step ahead, big-budget militaries like the US and alliances like NATO are continuing to innovate, in the air but also underwater and on land. This video from 2019 shows NATO testing submersible drones, and this is a drone swarm flying through bamboo forests in China. A number of militaries around the world are already using palm-sized Hornet drones for surveillance.
This ability to loiter over a target and collect intelligence and surveillance and reconnaissance is really powerful.
And deploying a drone in combat is far cheaper and carries fewer risks to pilots than a manned jet. But there are fears that drone operators working thousands of miles away from a potential target are too disconnected from reality, more computer game than real-life warfare. Studies nevertheless show that they can suffer from PTSD and depression just like frontline troops. But the next phase in drone warfare is promising to change the rules of engagement altogether. What happens when military powers allow the drone itself to decide who is friend and who is foe, and then pull the trigger?
Are we comfortable handing over life and death decisions to machines on the battlefield? That's the question. Like, the answer is complicated.
It may seem like a paradox that on the battlefield we still have rules.
Until now, those rules usually meant humans making decisions to attack an identified military target.
But there's no consensus among countries about what to do about it.
In 2020, according to a UN report, Libyan government forces deployed a Turkish-made Kargu-2 drone against an opposition group. This drone can identify a target and fire autonomously, but it's unclear if the drone itself called the shots.
And so the fact that no one can agree on that just exposes the porosity of this line between fully autonomous and semi-autonomous.
And with life and death in the hands of AI, what if that same technology fails?
The risk that AI-enabled autonomous systems might target the wrong forces and cause civilian casualties, or even attack enemy forces, but at the wrong time and place, escalating a conflict or sparking a conflict, is a serious concern, and one that nation states need to take seriously.
And AI's ability to recognize faces and objects is still very much a work in progress. Computer algorithms can be confused by changing weather patterns or similarly shaped objects. This has turned out to be a problem with some self-driving cars. Between July 2021 and May 22, nearly 400 car crashes in the US were attributed to partially automated driver assist systems. Some fear the same could happen with armed drones. Without international consensus on how to control and regulate autonomous weapons, many see AI warfare as inevitable.
Countries are discussing the issues, but the technology is certainly moving forward at a faster pace than diplomacy.
We're either sort of past the point of no return, or we're at this point where it's so important that we need to be careful, especially careful now, with ensuring that there are norms about prohibiting the autonomous targeting of these munitions.
The UN Secretary General called for a total ban on lethal autonomous weapons, as have international human rights organizations.
The public's fear in this area, it's legit. It's something that the society should be questioning and asking these questions. That's natural, that's expected, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
AeroVironment's CEO grew up in Afghanistan and knows all about Russian aggression.
I also saw war, I saw people die.
He was a teenager when his family was forced to flee the Soviet invasion.
So I lived and experienced exactly the kind of things that the Ukrainians are experiencing today.
The war in Ukraine continues to push the boundaries of the rules of engagement. There seems to be little concern for civilian casualties. But what's worse, the cruelty of man or the fallibility of machines?